Hi, this is 365801 and this is another Yen Press and Edelweiss reading vlog. So I am still reading Richard Osman's The Bullet That Missed. That's ongoing. But I have also started reading some of the titles that I got through Edelweiss. Yen Press were very kind and I got some more arcs. And the first one is the manga version of Associate Professor Akira Takatsuki's Conjecture, Folklore Studies. This will be the manga version of the light novel that I read in the previous vlog for Yen Press and Edelweiss, so I'll put a link to that or in the description as well. So it's really interesting. I'm about halfway through it just now. Yeah, I think I'm around 50%, and it's very much following the same story, the same dialogue, everything. And I have to say, it is very, very much like the case files of Julia Richard, which I've got here, that I just read volume 1 of. The light novel definitely reads like that. I think I preferred the light novel so far. The art style is just okay. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's not exciting, although I did really enjoy the colour images at the start. So yeah, so far this story is playing out exactly as the light novel. If I just read this, I think it would be fine, but having read the light novel, I would say I put that as a preference. So I'm looking forward to reading the next volume of the light novel as well. But yeah, this so far is definitely one that I would want to pick up, because even if it's not explicitly BL, it's implicitly BL. Just like Julia Richard. So yeah, if Julia Richard is your thing, then Akira Takatsuki's, Associate Professor Akira Takatsuki's Conjecture is probably going to be your thing as well. So yeah, I'm going to finish reading that today probably. I've got some coffee and brunch/lunch. No, it's definitely brunch. It's still brunch. So I've got cheese, ham and egg on toast, and I'm probably going to enjoy this while I finish reading the manga. So this just arrived in the post. I have a vague idea of what it is. I think I got it for £4 or £5, which is pretty good. Another World of Books buy. Let's see what kind of condition it's in. Ooh. So, volume 4 of Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. Pretty good. That is in pretty good condition. So, very happy about this. I have a little bit of knocking from probably in transit postage. But other than that, it's in pretty good condition. So this is volume 4. I have volume 1. I have, is it volume 6? Volume 5? Volume 6? Whichever the final one is. Which one is this one? So I have the final one, I have the first one, and I have now volume 4. So I can't remember if it's 5 or 6 volumes that they did for Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. But anyway, I have another one added. I need to get volume 2 and 3 for sure, because I don't have them. So yeah, this is another one to add. And it was a really good buy. It was something like £5 or £6, and then I got a discount as well added on. So yeah, very, very cheap. I'll have to check exactly how much, but wasn't too expensive. So very happy to add this to my MXTX collection. So I just finished reading Associate Professor Akira Takatsuki's Conjecture, Volume 1. The art is by Toji Aiyo. Original story is Mikage Sawamura, and the character design is by Jiro Suzuki. So yeah, I just finished it. I can't say today was the best day to be reading it, just because I do feel a little bit snoozy, like I'm in need of a nap. And so, unfortunately, this manga probably, it wasn't the best time to be reading it, because I have just recently read the light novel, and the light novel was interesting and new, and the stories were different, whereas I'm just rereading the same story but in manga form. And I don't think that, whether it's me reading it today feeling a little bit snoozy, or if it's the fact that I have just read the story and I understand it, or if it is actually it in manga form, the stories didn't hold the same level of tension that would then hold my interest as well. I did feel myself getting a little bit snoozy. The art style as well, if you're expecting prettiness on the level of the Case Files of Julia Richard, it's not that. It's a different kind of art style, and it's not quite as pretty. It's a little bit bare bones, and a little bit jaggedy. I feel like that's how I would describe it. You can look at the hair, and that's the kind of jaggediness. I did like the color pages at the beginning, but the rest of the manga, it's just very competent. Very, very competent, but it doesn't have a style that makes you want to keep reading and look at the pictures. It's not like, oh, look at this amazing, pretty art. It's just very, very competent manga, and a retelling of the same story, but just with less involved. And I think it was really interesting to read the author Mikage Sawamura's note at the end of the manga when she says that it's just a very pretty man, monologuing all the time, talking, liking the sound of his own voice kind of thing. So she said she wasn't sure if it would actually work as a manga. And I do think that they did a good job of breaking it up, because in the light novel, there is just a lot of monologuing and a lot of lecture notes, and it feels like you're learning something, which doesn't always translate very well into manga form. But I think this was a very solid manga adaptation of the story. If you haven't watched my other video, just as a quick synopsis, we are following a first-year university student who goes to a class called Folklore Studies 1, and it is a class that is given by Associate Professor Akira Takatsuki, and he is a very, very beautiful man who has a lovely voice and is incredibly interested in folklore, ghosts and monsters, that kind of thing, urban legends, anything to do with folklore studies. And he's also a little bit odd, and he ends up putting extra credit if you can give an interesting folklore or urban legend tale, especially if you've experienced it yourself, or if you have direct knowledge of some sort of strange incident, then you can get extra credit. And Fukumachi, who is the first year student, gives some extra credit, and the two of them meet. And he ends up kind of becoming his assistant when he goes off to investigate whether or not something has a supernatural origin, or if it is actually human in origin, these strange occurrences. And of course, most of the time you're thinking it's obviously going to be a human occurrence, but there are some supernatural elements in the story as well. And I don't want to go into it too much. You'll find out more if you watch the previous video where I talk about the light novel a lot more. Whereas I also didn't want to spoil things too much there either. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I have some other manga from Yen Press to read, so I will talk about that when I've finished the next one. So today being the 12th, it is fantastic. We have Jinx up, Steel Under Silk is supposed to be up, as well as Love is an Illusion. So I'm very excited. This is a good day. This is a good day. It's a Saturday, and we got 3. So this is like my absolute favorite time, when you get all 3 at the same time. So I have already started the second manga, although I'm not entirely sure if it's a manga or a webcomic that's been published in print, and that is Cuckoo's 3. But I'm gonna have a wee break and have some udon. I've got a little fried egg on top, and I also decided to make some cabbage pancakes. So they're not really okonomiyaki, but they're kind of a bit like that. I have a vegetarian one that's just cabbage and onion and pickled ginger. And then I decided to add a little bit of ham and cheese to the mixture. So my second one has got cheese and ham in it as well. So they'll be good dipping it in, because I really do like udon with a little bit of like vegetable tempura or something like that. So I thought this would be quite a nice one. It's kind of Korean. It looks like a mixture. It's like it's Asian inspired, because I don't want to equate any of these dishes to any particular Asian region, because it's not. This is like generic Western Asian food by way of Scotland and the Highlands. So yeah, kind of a weird dinner, but it's probably going to be incredibly delicious, especially this cheese and ham one dipped into the udon and had with the egg. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. But while I'm having my wee break, I'm going to watch a little bit of Only Murders in the Building, because the new season starts and I really want to watch the third season, but I want to catch up and make sure that I've rewatched the second season first. So yeah, this is my dinner, and then I'll carry on with the manga reading after. So I just finished the next one, which was Cuckoo's 3 by Cassandra Jean and Moscat. This is very much a graphic novel, and it follows the story of two teenagers. One is called Murray, who lives kind of on a farmland out in the countryside, and Jacob, who moves into the house next door across the field, and they're roughly the same age. But Jacob has definitely moved there for reasons that we don't really find out until a little bit later on. Murray, though, just takes to him straight away, and the two of them get on really, really well, and they start to hang out a lot more, which does cause some tension between Murray's friends at school. Jacob is homeschooled, so he stays at home. He's a gifted artist, but he's definitely got some issues that he needs to deal with that are very personal, and as he gets to know Jacob, Murray starts to understand a lot of what it is that he is learning about him, and some of the issues, and eventually he does let him know what the health condition that he has is and the reasons why he has it. And so they just become a lot closer and a lot closer, and find out a lot more about each other, and it's just their relationship. I do think that it was really good. So this is kind of about mental health, but it's also about other specific aspects of mental health. So I did find that was quite interesting. And I really liked how Murray's character is just kind of very open, and he gets described as being a Labrador, and that's the kind of personality that he has. He's very open and accepting and loving, and very good at American football, and wants to be a veterinarian, and he loves animals. He's just like an all-round great guy, and I think that's the kind of person that Jacob needed in his life. So yeah, it's a really nice one. It's a really cute one. The art style is very different. It's not, manga-esque. This is very graphic novel-y rather than anything else. So I do think going in, if you like this artwork on the front, you're probably gonna like the art in the story. Yeah, it was really good. I didn't know if I was going to like it. I read the first couple of pages and put it down, and then I read the couple of pages and I put it down. But literally, like, by the end of the first chapter, I was like, okay, fully invested. That was just flew by. And it's a really quick read. There are a couple of things at the end, though, that kind of leave you hanging. And then they have all these little extras at the end that the artists obviously put together as they've been drawing the story. So like a Christmas one and a Halloween one, those kinds of things. Just like a day in the life type thing. And I concur that Hocus Pocus is a better Halloween movie than The Ring. Sorry, but I need my Halloween movies to be like Technicolor. But yeah, there was definitely a few kind of things left hanging. That I was like, well, but what about that? And what about that? What are the consequences of something that happened, which was quite shocking. Well, was it shocking? I could see it coming a mile away, but still, it was like, in terms of the story, there was a thing that happened, and I don't know what the consequences of that was. And also, Murray's mother did something, and I was like, well, what happened there? Was there a conversation? So there was a couple of things left resolved for me. It seemed to end quite abruptly, and then we had the little extras, and they were definitely needed, because if it just ended as it was, I would have been like, what? Is that it? So I'm really glad that we got all these little extras at the end, because otherwise it would have felt very incomplete. But I still feel like it is incomplete. So as much as I have enjoyed it, and it's a good story, and it highlights something about mental health that I didn't necessarily know too much about, so I feel like I learned something, I still feel like there could have been more, and or just a few extra, like an extra chapter, like a full extra chapter at the end would have resolved a lot more things. And I think that it would have benefited from that. I don't know if there's a page count limit, or if they could possibly do a second one. But I really liked it, but I just feel like it's slightly incomplete. But yeah, now I've got one other manga to read for Yen Press, and this is one I'm really looking forward to as well. So, good morning. It's still just the morning. It's kind of going to be my lunch brunch kind of. It's a ham and cheese with cucumber and spring onion. It's going to be delicious. I've got a cup of coffee as well. But I have finished reading After We Gazed at the Starry Sky by Bisco Kida. And this is super cute. This is a really cute one. I obviously will want to get a physical copy. And of course it does have disability rep, which I think is good. I'm enjoying the fact that we're getting more stories with different disability representation, and for some it's the focus, and for some it's not incidental, because it certainly will play a part, but it's not necessarily 100% the focus. And I like this one because it's obviously a romance, but it also has to deal with the main character Subaru and his he's got, I think he's paralyzed from the knee down, and so he's been born that way, and he needs to live his life mostly in a wheelchair. Then he does feel slightly trapped. He dreams about going and having adventures and seeing places in the world, but he feels like he can't really do that because he's in a wheelchair. He lives his life doing design work at home, and is a huge fan of a photographer who makes gorgeous art and beautiful photographs of the night sky full of stars. And this is Togo. And he gets, at the beginning of the story, a phone call from his friend who asks him to design the pamphlet or leaflet for the planetarium that she works at, where she's going to be using the photographs from Togo to create a special exhibition. And would he like to make the pamphlet? And of course he's delighted and would like to do that. And then of course she forces him to come to the opening show and introduces him to his idol, I guess. He's such a fan, Togo. And the two of them actually hit it off, and Togo helps him to live his life with more adventure and more adventure spirit and more courage, to go and see the world and to take chances and to live the life he wants to live and that he can live, but he feels like he can't because of his disability, that he's not able-bodied and therefore he won't be able to do what he wants to do. And Togo helps him to realise that, but also Subaru helps Togo to overcome some of his fears and helps him to realise some of his dreams as well. And it's just a really lovely, cute, sweet story. And it is really great that we're getting more varied representation within manga, disability rep in different ways. And it's nice that we're getting it in BL too. We are, I think, moving forward in manga, or at least Japan is, and therefore we are, because we always get it just a little bit later. And there's been times when Japan's been pretty cutting edge about some of the representation of some things, and others it's a little bit slower. And so I'm really glad that we're getting different representation within manga, and especially within BL manga. This is a super cute one. The first The first time I started reading it, I thought the art style wasn't quite my taste, but by the end of the manga, I was like fully on board. It's totally fine. I don't know if Bisco Kida is seasoned mangaka, or if this is their first one, if a debut. I'm not sure. I don't know. But it definitely felt like this was something that the mangaka maybe even improved throughout this work. So from the first few panels to the end, I felt like it was getting better, which is an odd thing to say. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed this one. I fully recommend it. After We Gazed at the Starry Sky is super cute. It does say number 1, so does that mean that there's more? And if there is, I'm happy about it, because I'd love to see what they get up to in later volumes, if there are any. I have no idea. I didn't check. I probably should have. But I really enjoyed it, and it did end in a nice, like, very conclusive kind of way. So, yeah, even if this is the only one we get, it still felt like a complete story. It still felt like it was good for just what it was. But yeah, they were really nice. It was really cute. It makes you want to go places. It makes you want to do things. It makes you want to live your life a little bit more. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed that. Which means I only have one thing left. So I had 3 manga or graphic novel ones from Yen Press, but I also have, I gotta bring this over, the light novel that I've got, which is You Can Have My Back, Volume 1. And I'm at 6%. So I've only really just started, but it's already, I'm 100% in. And in this one, we're following Leorino. Yes, Leorino, who is a beautiful boy, who seems to also contain the memories of another individual, and called Io, or Ioria, something like that. And so it's not a fully percent out there yet, but it seems to be that we're getting that, and he's starting to realize that as well, that it might not just be more like, oh, I have thoughts in my head. It might actually be there's something more going on. And so it seems to us that he has the memories of someone who lived in the past, and the people around him knew of this person. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's going to be royalty, and it's kind of like set in a, I don't know how to say, a fantastical medieval-esque, semi-weirdly European sort of setting. Just your general fantasy story. So yeah, he's the 4th son of like a lord, but he's incredibly beautiful. He looks like an angel, blonde hair, violet eyes, stunningly gorgeous. And we've just got to the point, I'm in 6% in, we just got to the point where he has met someone, or he's met a couple of people who knew the person that he, at this point, is not sure if they're actually a real person or not, but he's starting to suspect that they are. And so he said, these 2 people, Brandt and Ginter, who are, one's a general, one's sort of like a diplomat type thing, and they both met this boy, and one of them says, Marzel, did you see that boy's eyes? Oh yes, I can hardly believe it myself. So they're very much thinking of the person who had the same colour eyes. Yeah, I'm 6% in, I'm really enjoying it already. It's great. I'm wondering where it's going to go. But it is only volume 1 of this light novel series. So yeah, I'm interested, intrigued, I'm hooked. So yeah, I'm going to have to give this a proper read. But I'm going to have my brunch first, and then carry on with this. But yeah, After We Gazed at the Starry Sky, big recommendation. It's a really cute, sweet story. But this one, we'll see how it goes. So it was a bit later in the day. I've now had my dinner. It was once again a cabbagey pancake, so I thought I was no point showing it to you. The more I learn about ADHD symptoms, the more I'm like, yeah, Yeah, that maybe makes sense. You know, when you eat something and then you're just like, I'm just gonna keep eating that for the rest of the week, and then you're gonna stop eating it because it just doesn't hit right anymore, or you run out, and then you don't eat it again for like 6 to 12 months later, and you're like, oh, kind of feel like that again. You just eat it for a week. I didn't realize that was a thing, like that other people didn't do. Oh, I just got an email. Anyway, I stopped this, so I needed to charge it. Unfortunately, it stopped charging, so I'm at 28% charge, but I'm at 32%, so I'm a third of the way through this. It's a long book. It really feels like it's a long book too. And I think it feels longer even because we have this timeline. And the book starts at the furthest point in the timeline as we've managed to reach. When Leorino, who's the main character, I guess, Leorino is probably in his late teens, and he's doing some things with Prince Gravis. And then we jump back in time to when Leorino is around 11 or 10 or 11, that kind of age. He's about to turn 12. So we kind of have a little bit of time. And we also jump back in time to describe when he was born. So that's 12, almost 12 years earlier. And we meet some of the characters there at that point in the timeline. And then we jump even further back to when those characters are younger, and we learn about their childhood and what they're up to. And so, yeah, there is a timeline. And this is just like characters, but then we also learn about the history of the countries and the politics and stuff that happens across this timeline. So we're bouncing around all over the place. And it kind of feels like because of that, because we don't just have a strict chronology and we read in chronological order, because we're bouncing around and we're reading from different characters' perspectives as well, it really does feel like it's a lot more dense. Or maybe it just really is long. But that doesn't mean I'm not enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, I'm at now Leorino, eldest brother's betrothal. And I'm really enjoying the fact that all of these chapters are named chapters. They're not just like chapter 12, chapter 13, or just 13, or just the name of the person you're reading from. It gives you a little bit more context. And I like that. I've missed having named chapters. I like a named chapter. It makes it easier to navigate the book. So yeah, I'm at a third of the way through. I'm feeling very good about it so far. You Can Have My Back. It's just an interesting title for what this book is. But it has come up a couple of times in the text, so I'm appreciating that as well. You know, when you read something, you're like, why is it called that? And then you come across it, and you're like, oh, okay. I get it now. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's nice. I like the characters. I like the two main characters, Leorino and Ionia. I'm guessing that's the pronunciation because, like if we go by Japanese pronunciation, Ionia sounds about right. So yeah, I'm enjoying these two characters and their differences and their similarities. And also everyone else. Also, I just have to say that this does have a bad guy. There is a traitor of the kingdom. And there was another traitor who was doing his traitorous job on behalf of this main traitor. And at 7%, when I found out that this was happening, I thought, oh, okay. And I have someone in my mind as to who is the traitor. So at 7%, I have learned something and went, oh, okay, does that mean that that person's a bad guy? Or maybe he's just suspicious. Maybe something about him just made me feel like he was suspicious. And then later on, so before this 32% mark, some other things we learned about that character, and I was like, well, that just makes you more suspicious. So I'm putting that person down as my main suspect of the traitor. So there's a bit of a mystery element to this as well, as kind of supernatural too. Because there's definitely some like powers and stuff going on. So yeah, it's kind of a fun fantasy. This is just a fantasy. It's kind of like medieval-esque kingdoms and war and powers and yeah, lots of aristocracy and stuff like that. That's the other thing. It's confusing because there's so many characters, so many timelines or perspectives on the timeline, and all of the names of all of the characters, because there's a big cast of characters. So yeah, feels dense, even though I'm only a third of the way through. So we'll see how far I can get before the end of today. But I might leave you to charge for a little bit longer. It's probably going to take a while. So good morning. It is the next day, but I have completed this. I have completed You Can Have My Back, Volume 1 by Minami Kutsuna and illustration by Hitomi Hitoyo. I'm fully hooked. I'm fully invested. Fully invested. It's so beautiful. This is what it comes to my Kindle like, my Kindle app. So for Edelweiss, it doesn't look the same, whereas on the website, it does look lovely. And it does have a few things at the start, which I do think helps. Obviously, all the publication information, the named chapters. Mwah, love a named chapter, so I enjoy that. But it also has a couple of these pages here, which is a character guide, and I really appreciate the character guide as well. Even though when you first read this, none of this makes sense. None of it makes sense, and that's the thing about fantasy books. You have all of these people, they all have like names, but they also might have titles, and they also have nicknames from childhood. So in that respect, it did kind of remind me, I have to say, of reading Danmei, like Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, when I first watched this as an anime and then started reading it and watching the Untamed. The characters are they have multiple names, and so you need to know who they are and what their names are, and who's calling them what. So that still exists within this system as well. Not to the same degree or not to the same extent, but it does help you to know that there are people with like titles and things. So in a fantasy land, that is the case as well. But it did remind me of when I first started reading MXTX's work, because this is only volume 1, and it seems really long, and it's very involved, and there's a lot going on, and yet we still like feel like I'm just at the start of the story. Like this first volume, it feels like it's a build up and exposition, and it feels like you're getting a lot of information, but the actual meat of the story as to what is happening at the present here and now hasn't happened yet. That's what it feels like. It kind of feels like it's just beginning. So I don't know how many volumes it is. Even if it's just one more volume, that'll be the meat of the story. It's interesting that it has that so much plot, and I do enjoy a BL that is heavily plot driven and has a lot more going on than just romance. Sometimes a one-shot romance is cute, sweet, but sometimes you want something that is massively long, super involved, full of intrigue and plots and politics and war, and you want something that's a big meaty story that you can get your teeth into, and this is definitely one of these. So if you enjoy any Danmei, then I would definitely recommend this book as well. It's just one of those that I feel like it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. I don't know how many volumes it is. I'm going to have to check to see, because I will want to read them all. This has been really good. It's interesting because, as I mentioned in one of the previous updates, the book starts with very, very beautiful Leorino doing some things, but nothing too sexual, and nothing actually probably very sexual. There's a kiss, but that's not the point of what they're doing. What they're doing is almost like strength training, but also not. Also very not. And this is Prince Gravis. And this book, volume 1, starts with a scene of the two of them together, and Leorino struggling to try and overcome the strength and power of Prince Gravis, and Prince Gravis kissing him, and it feels like, oh, is this the kind of book that it's going to be? So don't worry, it's not, although it kind of is as well. but that point in the story we haven't reached by the end of this book. And I'm saying this is a super long book, but that seems like that's training for him. Like it's I think the whole point of this book, I'm not entirely sure, but one of the things I found was that it's all about Leorino, and kind of like his struggle with his identity, obviously because he is the reincarnation of another individual, and that other individual's memories and thoughts and feelings and history he has full knowledge of, or he does as he grows up. He dreams and he has visions and he has thoughts that he knows are not his own, and he knows about the history of Ionia, or is it Ionia? Ionia? That seems better. Ionia. He knows all about him and how he was a strong person and that he was a warrior and he died in battle, and he was very beautiful and he had a sensuality to him that that is similar but is also different. Leorino struggles from a young age because of his beauty, and that's the other thing he has to deal with, is the identity of himself, because he's so stunningly beautiful with these violet eyes and this gorgeous cherub face and this almost white platinum blonde hair, and just being such an ethereal vision that everyone is struck dumb. And he's been like that since he was a child, and he has to kind of navigate his gender identity as well, being brought up wearing dresses and trying to be a boy but still asserting himself as I'm a boy. And then after the tragic incident, when he was 12 and he's a half fledgling or whatever they call them, he is then crippled. And so there's also the inclusion of chronic pain in this story, and a disability, which I really enjoy as well, because like I said in the previous manga, it's nice to have disability representation within stories. I enjoyed it in Thousand Autumns, for example. It was a really good anime that has that in it, and I enjoy that as a character, because it is someone's struggle, and it helps people to know that if you're struggling in any way, you can get over it, or you can get through it, or you can keep working. And yeah, it's going to be tough, but that's life. And for him, it's almost like he has this physical disability that is to do with his body, but also he has a physical disability because of his beauty, that it's going to be a hindrance to him. So the only option in this society for him, because he's the fourth son, is to be married off to a man who will be able to protect him. And that's a big aspect of this book. It's about protection and about being protected, and where you land on that spectrum of, who can you protect and who can protect you. And that's, I think, why it's called You Can Have My Back. And so we need a character like Leorino to inhabit that space of the person who feels like he cannot do anything to help. He feels useless, and everyone around him feels like he's in need of protection, that they want to protect him or that they want to take advantage of him. And he is there very much like saying, no, I am a boy, I am a man, I want to be the protector, I want to be the person who helps and supports, I want to give back in society, I want to have that role. And he also has that feeling because he has all of these past memories of someone else who was a great warrior, who was powerful, who had an actual power, and who had military training, and who was in the army and who died, you know, sacrificing himself for the country. And there he is in this weak body. And so there's a lot of aspects like that. And I think that's why it's called You Can Have My Back, because it's about protection, protecting. It's about feeling like you're useful. It's about feeling like you're connected to the people around you in a positive way and not being a burden and all of that. And I really enjoyed that. So yeah, this is great. Really enjoyed this. And I'm really annoyed that I don't have volume 2 right away because I really want to read it. But yeah, I do think that if you like fantasy things, so for example, the biggest one I could compare it to is Captive Prince, because this is a 3-volume series, and it definitely is long and involving. It has lots of different, it has a lot of similarities in the fact that there are lots of countries at war. There's lots of political shenanigans, and there's also the element of the betrayer, the traitor within the country. And as I mentioned in the previous one, the guy who I'm like, oh, he seems like a traitor, like 7% in, by the end of it, you're like, yeah, he's definitely the most suspicious person. And that's another thing. There's the whole mystery of like who's doing what's the political shenanigans, and I love that. I love political shenanigans. But also Leorino is in a unique position to, like, he's the only one who really knows and suspects that this person is actually a traitor, and so he needs to be able to find, and that's why he's like, that's the only good thing I can maybe do. And so, yeah, it's great. But Captive Prince has a lot of similarities in that respect, that there's war, fantasy setting, but that there's also, a very beautiful man, a very beautiful boy, and almost as though he needs to fend off the attentions of other men who might have designs on him and his body, and the sexual undertone. And that's also in this book, the fact that every single person is trying to protect Leorino because he's just too beautiful, and that men will just want to kidnap him and take him away and do dastardly things to him. And because he's been so sheltered, he's really not sure exactly. And I'm like, dude, you have all of Ionia's memories. You know exactly what men are doing to each other. So yeah, it's kind of, there is that sexual element that's a little bit like, ooh, be careful. And that was very much in Captive Prince as well. There's definitely that element to that story. So yeah, this was one I thought, if you like Captive Prince, then give You Can Have My Back a go, for sure. That's like almost a direct comparison. Other ones in terms of like battles and war and politics and shenanigans and things like that in other lands, because it has that fantasy setting. It also has military schools and things like that, and that is a thing when we go back in time. So this is somewhat comparable as well. So if you like In Other Lands, I would say You Can Have My Back. Give it a go. I also put in, just for a little bit, Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, because it is big and it's long and it's very much, and like I said, there is a military school, and this is a school setting too. It also has someone who might be the traitor, and there is a bit of a traitory thing going on in here, and you need to kind of figure out who it is and what's their purpose. But this is one complete volume and it comes to a head, whereas this finishes at this point and we don't know where this story is going to go. It's only like half the story, so, or a third of the story. I don't know how many volumes there is, but you don't know. So this is an incomplete version of something like that. And then, of course, as I said, any danbei that is long and involving and has politics, like Thousand Autumns, NEMXTX, Chapeau Lang, Stars of Chaos. That's a big one as well. It's a big one as well, I think. But this one, of course, is a reincarnation story. And I haven't read a lot of reincarnation stories, to be honest. So I guess SVSS, the Scum Villains, Scum Villain, maybe. It's maybe one because of the possible, or I guess. Yeah, I don't want to put in the Shizun and the White Husky, that kind of thing. No. But yeah, this one I really enjoyed. So out of all of the things I read, this is my favourite because it's prose. And I think I'm enjoying reading something that is long and involving and has a lot going on. Plot heavy stories. I do enjoy plot heavy stories now more than I did when I was younger. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm really looking forward to the next one. So yeah, that's everything I read. Quite a few things. So Associate Professor Akira Takatsuki and is it Three Cuckoos? I should probably check. And the previous one that I just read. So these are the 4 that I got. Yeah, Associate Professor Akira Takatsuki's Conjecture, You Can Have My Back, Volume 1 of the manga, After We Gazed at the Starry Sky. It doesn't have a Volume 1 after it, but then on the actual manga it says number 1, so I'm wondering if there's more, and if there is, I would definitely want to read it. And Cuckoo's 3, which was an interesting one, but kind of felt a little bit incomplete, like it needed more to the story. So if that has more, I would be up for reading it. So yeah, those are the 4 things. I talked a lot for 4 things, but yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully you can take some recommendations away from this video. So yeah, thanks to Yen Press again, and thanks to Edelweiss, because I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying reading BL manga as e-arcs, and making sure that I definitely want to pick these up when I can for a good price. I think most of them will be coming out soon, or will be out already by the time this video goes up. So yeah, check them out if you're interested. Thanks for watching to the end of this video. I don't know how long it is. So yeah, like, subscribe, share, all of those things. I've got a Patreon if you're interested, where I get early access and shout out at the end of the video, and some Patreon exclusives for $1 a month. So if you like that, the information's in the description down below. So yeah, thanks for watching to the end, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!